Ja, en als ik zeg er zijn gridgirls, wie wordt er dan wakker? Wel onze noorderburen worden wakker. Welkom aan Kees Koning, de kop van het circuit van Zandvoort, die hier ook aanwezig is op het circuit Zolder vandaag. En Kees die grijpt momenteel de slaap uit zijn ogen en die kijkt naar al wat Belgische moois op het circuit Zolder. En die gridgirls die zijn er natuurlijk voor het volgende wat op ons programma staat. En dat is de GT3 European Championship en de Belgian GT Championship megagroep partij. Zij starten in twee reeksen. Eerst krijgt u de wagens van de FIA GT3 en dan krijgt u de wagens van de Belgian GT Championship. Dat wil niet zeggen dat die daarom trager zijn. Ze zouden in principe iets trager moeten zijn, maar ja, de Belgen hebben natuurlijk het voordeel dat ze dit circuit op hun duimpje kennen. En dus nu even de formatie van de startopstelling met de gridgirls, met de vlaggen van de merken en de officiële gebeuren voor de start van race 1. Rollende start gaan te krijgen en dan 60 minuten van race. En de race die wordt hier vandaag bijgestaan door Geurts. Hij komt hier binnengestrompeld buiten adem. Ik denk dat hij ook naar de gridgirls is gaan kijken, die Geurts.
It's a grey but warm Sunday morning here in Belgium, and you're welcome to the final two races in this year's FIA GT3 Championship, one now and the second at 5 o'clock this evening local time. One of these two outings will decide the outcome of the 2009 Championship, as it once again goes down to the wire in a season packed with drama both on and off the track. Never more so than last time out in Paul Ricard. Our last race began as the brilliant sunshine in the south of France faded into autumn and rain threatened, but all the cars started on slicks. The first sign of drama came as both the Fisher Fords slid off, and then there was chaos at the bottom of the Mistral. 6 cars in one massive accident. Red flag, race stopped, no one hurt, but the top championship contenders all damaged and mostly missing from the grid for race 2. The Alpine has looked strong at the start but faded, and while minor tussles took place throughout the race involving just about every car and every kind of driving, the one consistent story was the charge from 22nd on the grid up to the front by Thomas Much and then Walter Salles to take a remarkable checkered flag, although the entire weekend left the championship battle largely unchanged. What has changed it rather more was the FIA decision during the week to cancel a disqualification imposed on the Hexis Astons at Oschersleben. The decision made locally at the time as a result of a confusion with the documentation which every car needs in order to compete, and puts Zachary and Rodriguez back on top of the table as we start the final round of the championship. We began at Silverstone in May with the Morgans looking untouchable, but as we crisscrossed Europe, the Hexis Astons took control of the points table, only to lose it in Portugal. And then everyone was caught up in that Mistral mayhem at Paul Ricard. That huge accident decimated the grid, and as the cars make their way out of pit lane today, you'll see that the normal 30 plus we've been used to is smaller than usual. Just 23 cars on our start line, but behind them another grid for the Belgian GT Championship. One of Europe's classic circuits, 10 corners, 2 useful straights, plenty of places to pass. It's a layout that always provides us with close racing, a perfect place to end the year, even in these conditions, because it has been raining overnight. We've just seen the GT warm-up take place, and the conditions out there, in my best words, Graham, iffy.
Iffy to the point where it's just been announced by race control that the GT3 race will start behind safety cars. So they'll have a safety car ahead of the GT3 grid, presumably a second one ahead of the Belgian GTs, which were due to start 20 seconds after the FIA GT3s. So 2 separate races going concurrently. And 2 separate safety cars there, the Wiesmann GTs on the start line, and that's why it's starting behind the safety cars. You've seen what happens when you let this entire grid loose on a circuit that's wet. If you were watching that VT piece earlier on, you'll have seen what happened on the Mistral. We saw it firsthand, and we don't want any repeat of that, especially with these 2 titles to be decided. 15 drivers could theoretically win this championship. Probably there's about 4 or 5 pairings that have a good chance of winning. But the grid, I'm just trying to think of a word to describe this grid, because the first race is very championship specific for Christopher's Haas and Mies, but the grid for race 2, which is already decided by yesterday's qualifying, it's nothing to do with what happens in this race. That grid is a very nondescript grid from a championship point of view. It is. This one, the first race, has ended up being quite interesting in that Thomas Zachary and Julian Rodriguez alongside Armindo and Campanico on row 5, because Armando and Campanico were penalised 5 places on the grid for behaviour, for not slowing down under yellows during free practice on Friday. And another car right at the back on row 11, Manila and Lucaides in the Mullner Motorsport number 19 Porsche have been docked 5 places as well for behaviour out on track as well. Some fairly robust overtaking going on yesterday and during qualifying 1, and the stewards decided that they really should be punished for that. So Manila really was pushing the envelope. This is the championship point, if you like. Christopher's Haas and Mies were leading the championship, were involved in that big moment on the Mistral, didn't take part in the second race. They come here half a point behind their rivals, but as Graham said, 5 grid rows in front of them. They start up the front from pole position, and Zachary and Rodriguez are well down the line, so the championship is leaning in their direction, but there are 2 races and 20 points here. The BMWs came alive in Paul Ricard. Jens Klingmann was quite a feature of that race, that second race, wasn't he? Yes, he was indeed, and lining up alongside Klingmann in the BMW is going to be an extra entrant, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Here's your pole sitter.
Christopher, this is exactly where you need to be with all the traffic that's going to be out on track today.
I don't understand you.
There will be a lot of traffic out there today. This is exactly where you need to start. How are you feeling about going into the race?
I cannot hear you.
How are you feeling about the race today?
The race. Yeah, okay. Now the track is very wet. We start off rain tires, and I hope for a good race, less crashes, and yeah, we will see. I think to the driver change we can change the tires of slick. I hope so.
Thank you.
That's an interesting one. He's
There you
hoping
go.
for a dry line to appear. Bert Longin, who knows this track very well, earlier said he didn't think there'd be a dry line by 1 o'clock when the GT1 race starts. But Christopher Haas, German driver, doesn't speak very much English. Wait till this race starts, because he speaks race, doesn't he?
Oh, he speaks race in a big way. This is the extra car I was mentioning, and for those eagle-eyed, you'll see KZ1R on the Sunstrip. That means it's an Ascari, and a very welcome return of Ascari to the GT3 field, this time in the form of the Team Rhinos Leopard car, and Ronnie Bremer, the Danish driver, will start, and Norman Knopp with the German will take over.
New name in the number 2 Matek Ford GT, Christian Mamro, you were saying. We've seen him in the championship before, but not in a Ford GT. And Matek have been trying out drivers through the end of this year, because they're preparing for their World Championship campaign next year, and they're trying different drivers and different driver combinations as they prepare for that. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yes, at Paul Ricard they tried and rather liked Henri Moser, didn't they? So
we all
that was,
like Henri
yes,
Moser.
I think he may have booked himself a berth there. That would be nice to do. Schaber-Walter sharing, as ever, the number 24 Alpina BMW B6 GT3 with Claudia Hurtgen.
And we are moving further and further back down the grid, as you can see, and we come to 7th place before you see a Ferrari, and there's a pair of them there, 8 and 14, and Bontempi is the man who will start, or Bontempelli, I beg your pardon, there's more consonants in that than I thought.
Yeah, Bontempelli, Lorenzo Bontempelli just has last weekend been crowned as the Italian GT3 national champion, also in a 430 race by Kessel, for whom he shares this weekend with Stefano Gattuso, the regular driver in number 8. JMB Ferrari, as you say, next up.
Philippe Rambo. It's a different spelling, it's not like John Rambo.
No.
However, I'm just looking at our inbox and seeing that no one sent us any questions, which I think means that we're answering all the questions. But if you do want to talk to us, studio@FIAGT.com, you can send us questions, suggestions and ideas. Think carefully.
The surviving Fischer Racing Ford GT, Christopher Nygaard aboard in row 4. Busy grid as ever.
And we are about 5 minutes away from the rolling start behind the safety cars, and as you can see, the Belgian grid is behind the GT3 grid, so it makes it look like our normal outing. We're accustomed to seeing 40 plus cars on the grid. It just goes to show A, what a whopper that was in the Mistral, and B, how difficult it is for teams to gather resources at the end of the season when much of their effort is directed towards next year.
Yes, sadly the outcome of all of that is that we don't have a single Corvette in the GT3 field for the first time this season.
I think there's only one left at the end of the race.
Yes, Mark Hood's team survived not too badly. They picked up a podium, in fact, in the second race, the one that did go the distance. Mark Hood sharing with Luca Ludwig, son of Klaus. And just looking down on that grid shot a moment ago, I was minded that this is a very different circuit from Paul Ricard. The wide open spaces, huge runoff areas there. Here we are in Zolder. It's a much tighter circuit. The confines are very much closer to the edge of the track, and woe betide those who stray off the edge, because it is mighty slippery.
It is also a traditional racetrack with gravel traps instead of concrete runover, so if you do go off, you're likely to stay there because you're likely to get stuck in the gravel. Trailing round behind the safety cars, and we're going to start the race in that condition, as our timing screen tells us. If you're looking at live timing on mstworld.com, you will know that as well. If you're not, you can do, and you can see everything that we see in terms of race information, sector times, the whole works, pit stops, it's all there.
Looking back from the pace car, these Wiesmann GTs really are delectable machines.
We followed one into the circuit.
Yes.
The other, what did it look like on the road? And it wasn't the yellow. Much as I like the yellow, I've got to say I have a soft spot for yellow cars. Much as I like the yellow, in that gunmetal grey, the coupe looks absolutely. Yes, thank you for saving me from a blunder there.
I thought I should at this at this gentle hour of the morning.
I was going to tell you what I really thought for a moment. It is just a handsome car. Look, very, very reminiscent of the Healey 3000. However, we've got championships at stake. We've also got, I should mention at this point, on the front of the the Belgian GT grid, a familiar-looking car and a familiar-looking name.
Yes.
Getting in a bit of extra track time in preparation for his bid to be GT2 champion later on this afternoon. You'll see Richard Westbrook starting behind the Belgian GT safety car, and as soon as they're released for racing, I imagine you'll be seeing him mixing it with a few of our regulars.
Yes, it's got to happen, hasn't it? And Richard Westbrook is there getting valuable seat time, as indeed is Christian Mamero, because he's in the track speed Porsche with Jörg Bergmeister in our main event later on this afternoon.
The formation lap, as you can see, is underway behind the safety car, but if you've just joined us, you won't know that the race will continue behind that safety car for a lap or two, and there's a second grid 20 seconds behind this one, and that will also start under safety car because the circuit is very slippery. The drivers in GT3 have had no wet running at all this weekend, and so they're being given the chance to find out what this circuit is like in the rain, and the answer is a bit tricky, really, isn't it?
Certainly is. And a wise precaution, I think, to do this. Turn 1 here at Zolder claims many a visitor into the gravel at the start of most races in any case, to launch this field off down this fairly long start-finish straight and into the 90-degree left-hander at turn 1 would be something akin to madness.
Well, the race timer has started, so it's now officially happening, and we are already 59.5 minutes remaining, and we won't know until we see the lights on the safety car roof go out when it's pulling into pit lane. This is the view back from the Wiesmann GT. I think if you have one of these, they have BMW V8s and 500 odd horsepower. Mostly you'll be looking at things from that angle.
Oh, and mostly you'll be smiling a lot.
So we won't know until with the light bar extinguished that it's pulling into pit lane. We might get a message on our timing screen, but at the moment, as you can see, the orange light bar is very busy, which means this will be another lap behind it. It's not. When we came to the GT warm-up this morning at 10 a.m, there was spray being thrown up from the tyres of all the cars on track, but although it's greasy now, that's not happening.
Only, yes, and just around that turn 1 area it looked wet. I was about to say much the same as you, Richard, that looking at the track here, for example, it really doesn't look very wet at all. But in turn 1 I noticed that there was quite a bit of water still on the surface, so mixed conditions around the 4 kilometres of the lap.
All the drivers weaving from side to side, trying to get some heat into their tyres. Rain tyres they've got on. I think most of them will have rain tyres on. It's a wet race and the conditions demand it, but you need heat to make it work. They have to be warm. They don't really start to do their stuff until they make about 100 degrees, and they don't have 100 degrees when you're doing this, even when you're weaving from side to side. And that means they don't, even in the rain tyres don't have the grip you want from them. And that way lies tragedy.
Absolutely, and clearly Christopher Haas was telling us on the grid interview when he did manage to tell us what was going on, as we see the lights go out and then back on again on the safety car. I think they are going to be taken out.
I think that's an off, wasn't it?
That's just right, they really are going off now.
Yes.
We'll see the race start now, I think, with Christopher Haas on wet.
He's on it,
telling us that he was going to go for dries on the driver change if they could. We are green flag racing.
And the pole man Haas got that nicely sorted, didn't he? Got a good launch. Here comes the championship contender, already moving up. Thomas Acker, he's got to claim some places, and he's doing it at the riskiest place of all, and off he goes.
And there he goes. This is exactly what I was thinking. Is the one place you don't want to be in turn one is on the outside, because yonder the gravel trap beckons. He's shaking the gravel out of the car as vigorously as he can, but trying to get rid of it before he gets back onto the circuit. But that has cost him a bunch of time and a load of places, and he has got now a mountain to climb.
Well, Thomas Acker risked everything going into turn one. I could have told him if he'd asked not to bother. We've seen so much going on there, and he was obviously much too fast going into it and off again as the lead changes. But I don't suppose for a moment that Christopher Haas will mind that too much, because his championship rival, or one of his two championship rivals, has just bit the dust quite literally.
Yes, it's a little early in the race for stout defending on a very greasy track. He'll let the BMW go in the hope that he may commit the folly of going too quickly too soon and slide off as well. That dear,
that's a
CRS car. Well, yes, that is
possibly a red one or a safety car moment, because they have got one car facing the wrong way and the other one jammed up underneath it.
Yeah, that's Klaus Hummel and David Ashburn, two British drivers who've had a coming together. I think that was the 22 car Porsche we saw.
Safety car has been deployed. Here's a replay of what happened, and I think he was just tagged by the BMW, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Just turned round, and David Ashburn had nowhere to go, no time to react. A car on his right-hand side meant he couldn't dive to the side of the already rotated Klaus Hummel, who, despite not having much luck this season, still goes around with a huge smile on his face. The amiable Dutchman has had a wonderful year, and I'm sure he'll be back for more, but he doesn't seem to have the best of luck, and that's another hefty rebuild job for the CRS crew before we get to race 2 later.
Well, we saw the safety car, and we were told that it was coming up, but we have not got a full course yellow, and there is still plenty of racing going on. Ford GT versus Ford GT there, and we've got an Ascari in third place. Ronnie Bramer, the Danish driver, I presume he's used to these kind of conditions, in third at the moment. There's the Audi at the back of that little queue, weaving about from side to side.
Yeah. Nicholas Armindo trying to make his way past Philippe Rombaud, we saw on the grid, and the man making up the place was this Ford GT, Christopher Nygaard, the red and white car ahead of now Christian Mamero. They started the lap the other way round. Here's a replay of what happened to Thomas Acker. He just didn't get the car turned in, skated off wide, skipped across the top of the gravel, managed to keep everything pointing in generally the right direction across the mud, and now we'll see it from his view. Just really didn't even attempt the corner, did he?
It was all going wrong well before that. As he came through the pack, he was well past his braking point and clearly heading for a gravel trap appointment. And unfortunately, I think that's shot their championships chances, such as they were, very firmly in the foot.
Yeah, for the time being anyway. There's the leading pack. Jens Klingmann still heading Christopher Haas in the Audi, and the 38 Ascari, the visitor this weekend. Bramer in third position, with the Italian champion Bontempelli up into fourth, ahead of Schaber Walter in the second of the BMW Alpinas.
Then it's this little battle here.
He's coming under pressure from Christopher Nygaard, having made his way past Christian Mamero last time. He's now going down the inside of the BMW. The BMW will defend the line, however, and squeeze out the Ford GT through turn 1. Now they'll swing right and through past the canal. That gives the natural line back to the BMW.
A message on the screen saying there's a car in the barrier at turn 7. They've moved the Porsche and the Ferrari, as you saw, from the first chicane as we're arriving at it now. Here's his chance. Through he goes, and not giving up in the BMW, but I think that was taken from him very firmly. Christopher Nygaard took that place, and he shut the door and squeezed the BMW again. This time he made it work, and he's looking quite impressive, Christopher Nygaard, as he goes up another place, but he's got a long way to go. There is the number 4 Hex's Aston Martin, Makavici and Rodriguez, and we're on board in number 3 with Acker trying to find his way back up through the field. We can see how slippery it is as he gets on the gas. He's got a lot of work to do. Stuck behind the Warner Motorsport Porsche there, and here he goes, finding an opportunity now but still having to risk everything as he picks off the places. And where is he on our leaderboard, Graham? He's gone a long way backwards, hasn't he?
He has
15th
gone a long-
place.
Yes, it's a long way down, and as you say, just passing the Mulder Motorsport car. New drivers in there as well. Petri Lapalainen aboard at the moment, one of 3 Finns filling the 4 available spaces in the 2 Mulder cars. There's a attempt at a pass there too from on the number 4 Aston Martin by Michael Petit in one of the MP Racing BMWs.
This is all about 12th place at the moment. The number 4 car is Manuel Rodriguez. The 2 Rodriguez is split between the 2 Hexes cars, and there's battles throughout the field, and this one is going to come to, I was going to say come to grief, little out-braking competition in the rain at the end of the front straight, and they've tiptoed round, but the Morgans starting to look a bit stronger now in these conditions, which probably suit the lighter cars. They looked stronger in qualifying for the first time this year, really. They came alive in Paul Ricard again after a good start, and still that Ford is fishtailing. I think it's a big handful at the moment, isn't it?
Yep, talking of lighter, more nimble cars, Bontempelli has made it up into 3rd place at the expense of Ronnie Bramer's Ascari, so it's a Ferrari in 3rd. BMW leads us, the Alpina of Jens Klingmann still out in the lead from Christopher Haas's Audi. Ferrari 3rd, and then it's the Ascari 4th with the Ford in 5th.
Well, the Gaël Lessoudier is making a bit of time up there in the Morgan.
Yep, making up a place too at the expense of Christopher Mamran. It means both of the Morgans have made their way past the Ford GT.
And in fact, the Morgan, next Morgan up, because there are 2 of them, which is Briche, the newcomer, has also picked off the Audi in front. So we go back on board in number 4 briefly, and look, they are nose to tail now, the Hexis cars. And Thomas Zachary is recovering, and I don't suppose he had much resistance going past his teammate in number 4. So up to 12th, but he really shot himself very, very badly
no
in the
favours early on, did he?
With that hopeful, I think that was a very optimistic belief that he could tiptoe through turn 1 at that speed.
Yep, here we are, we're back to the head of the field, and Jens Klingmann making his way up onto the back of one of the Belgian GT contenders. This will make watching this race a little more complex, because we've got 2 races going in at once. Any car starting with a number 0 is in the Belgian GT Championship, so we can identify those and pick them out then from our own battles. This is a battle that's developing very nicely indeed. With Nicholas Armindo.
Look at Christian Mamaro. Forgive him, he's a newcomer with that car and he's learning it the hard way, but I bet he's smiling sideways everywhere. And losing ground, but I bet he's having fun. Yeah,
going steadily backwards. Started in 3rd place and is now in 10th. But the 2 Morgans looking to gang up on Nicholas Armindo in the 32 Audi, one of the Rosberg cars. He in turn is trying to make his way past a Ferrari, and has.
This is championship stuff for the 32. It's in 3rd place at the moment, and they need to get on with it. They do not need to be snapped up by any Morgans, and that as they go past the Lamborghini going over the hill in stereo, they look like they're about to snap him up. The stray Lamborghini got in the way a bit there, didn't it? And he's given Armindo something to get his breath back, but they'll be coming back at him very shortly, and he is going to be he's going to be seeing one on either side in each mirror, and he won't know what to do.
And this is something that we are going to see, because the standard of driving in the Belgian GTs is somewhat mixed, and they have a class, a B3 class, where they are actually not allowed to exceed a certain lap time. So if they go too quickly, they get penalised.
Right, and this will be it then, won't it? So at the moment it's Klingmann, Haas, and then Bontempelli 1st, 2nd and 3rd as before, and Christopher Haas looking very championship solid in the 26 car. This suits him very nicely indeed. Jens Klingmann, not a bother to him in the championship at the moment, and everybody who was a bother is behind him, so this will do very nicely.
The 2 Morgans are swapped places that time round. Gaël Lessoudier getting the better of new boy to the team, Julien Briche, who's in the number 100 this weekend alongside Johan Boris Scheier.
And you can see there's quite a few of the Belgian cars in between the front runners in FIA GT3. This is Bontempelli, or was Bontempelli at the back there. And we haven't seen a Viper for a while, have we?
No, we haven't. Bontempelli is falling back somewhat from Christopher Haas, so 6.5 seconds the gap last time through. The other gap we need to watch is that between Thomas Ackery in number 3 and Christian Mamero, who's struggling somewhat in that 4GT. Oops, as we have a curb hopper from Julien Briche, just not quite able to keep on terms with Gaël Lesoudier, who's pulling away. But Thomas Ackery had 4.5 seconds of gap between himself and Christian Mamero's 4GT, which would be his next target in his climb back up the order following his first lap excursion.
Well, Nicholas Armindo's got a... Oh dear, that is not...
That's the second...
second off, isn't it?
Second accident of the day for 55 Klaus Hummel, ending up in the gravel there. He seemed to... That's turn 1, isn't it? He's done that on his own. And you could see the legacy of the contact with David Ashburn's Porsche when he got spun round by the BMW first time. So an already damaged car is now beached, and I think Klaus is...
well, so we'll have yellow flags on that corner, for sure, which ought to slow people down a bit. And Nicholas Armindo trying to get past Ronnie Bramer and Ascari and get these Morgans off his back, and also take the championship fight forward to the 26 Audi, which is at the moment is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places in front. No, 5 places in front of him.
Yes, that's not an ideal place to be as a marshal, is it? On there,
they do that every
1.
race that we've had here, every practice session. That has happened at turn 1, and out they go with their shovels and start digging cars out. And they've got a very sophisticated early warning system operating on that corner. And I can see like a dry line. Yes, it is. I can see a dry line going through that Bianchi, this corner in the back of this shot now. So the sun is beginning to burn the water off, and the cars are beginning to lift it, though.
Yes, there it is, quite clearly evident. Richard well spotted, and Nicholas Armindo looking to make hay while the sun starts to shine and get his way past the Ronnie Bramer-driven Ascari. Great to have an Ascari back in the field, good-looking cars.
Yes, it's looking more and more, as Christopher Haas suggested, that they'll be able to go to slicks at the pit stop. They've got a regulation that says you will take a fixed amount of time between pit in and pit out. It's 70 seconds here, as it is so often in many places, and that's the pass that Armindo has been trying to make, but it's not going to stick, is it?
It's side by side, but I think the line will be taken this time by Armindo, and Ascari has no option but to just dip in behind. Doesn't mean he'll have given up on the place and may well find a way of fighting back, but if the Audi can get the power down and pull away, then the trouble for Bramer is going to be watching in the mirrors as a Morgan approaches in the hands of Gaël Lesoudier. Here's a replay of the pass, just drifting out round the outside, taking the inside line for the next right-hand turn and leaving the Ascari no choice.
And as you say, the Morgan behind now queuing up for his chance at that, as the CRS car is dragged away on the end of a rope, and I think that's the end of his race, and they've got a couple of hours to sort that for this afternoon. I don't think we'll be seeing that back on track. Klingman leads it by 5 seconds. Haas is second, that's good for him. Bontempelli drifting back, it's a 10-second gap. Christopher Nygaard hasn't crept up any closer. Schaber Walter looking solid in 5th place. 6th place is Armindo, and we've been following that battle for some time. You just see the Audi behind the BMW, the Alpina BMW.
Yes, B6.
GT3. And there is a Morgan just nipping past the Ascari.
Yep.
Ronnie Bramer did in fact have to give that one up, and Gaël Lesoudier now continues his pursuit of Nicholas Armindo. So Armindo has made himself another breathing space, but it hasn't lasted very long.
No.
And he's back to where he was with a Morgan stuffed up his tailpipe.
And yeah, Nicholas Armindo has been caught up behind this Belgian GT runner for some little while now. Finally makes his way through.
Oh, look at that!
Blue flags all over the place. The Morgan really taking advantage to get up onto the back of the Audi.
Gaël Lesoudier took a lovely bit of opportunism to get past there. I know it was back marker time, Belgian Championship time and all the rest of it, but he could have lost a bit of ground to Armindo, but he saw a tiny window open there and he dived through,
just went for it. No questions asked, straight in. The second Morgan making his way past the Belgian car as well there.
So we've got 42 minutes left to go. We've got pit stops to run, and the teams have all got decisions to make. And I think that normal procedure in the pit stops is to get your fast driver out for as long as possible. So if you've got your quick driver watching at the moment, you want him in the car as early as you can. But if the track is drying, you want to leave the car out for as long as possible to be sure about getting the slips on it. That looked like a pass, was it?
Yes, Christopher Nygaard having his having a good look down the inside of Lorenzo Bontempelli. He's looking again down the inside. He's got that line, but Bontempelli's strong on the outside, and who's going to be better down the start-finish straight, down the back straight rather, parallel to start-finish? It's the Ferrari that's got the legs at the moment. Can Nygaard take him into the chicane? Yes, he can. Nice clean pass, well done. Bontempelli lost some of his, I think relatively.
Wardrobe here.
Bontempelli lost some of his momentum there, and that's allowed Nicholas Armindo to close right up onto the back of him as well, having disposed of Sharper Volta in the process.
Christopher Nygaard tiptoed through there and will need a change at the pit stop, I think, because that was touch and go, and he only just got that thing turned in, didn't he, and stopped in again. Bontempelli a little bit wobbly there as Armindo comes alongside. Wipers on there. I don't know whether he's still finding water on the surface as Nygaard whistles past the Barwell Aston Martin there, 0.73, the 0 telling you it's in that Belgian race which started 20 seconds behind. Just a little bit of overtaking to do, and a little bit of traffic for some of them to use as Lesoudier has a look.
Another look up the inside of Sharper Volta there, but not going to happen. Bontempelli remains mired behind the Barwell Aston Martin, which gives the BMW a chance to have another look at getting back to him, but no, it's the Morgan that's going to profit if he can get down the inside here and hold that line into turn one. He's got the line for the corner and makes the pass stick. I think there's no option but for Sharper Volta to let him go. He's now got another one to look at. These Morgans are tiny little things in comparison to... well done, Sharper Volta, though. Not giving up the corner, is he?
And neither is Gael Lesoudier. That was lovely, wasn't it? He had to go off onto the wet side of the track, Gael Lesoudier, but he still managed to get the car stopped and turned going into turn one from over there, and you could see it was right off the dry bits. So it's all heart in the mouth stuff for everybody at the moment.
The trouble that Sharper Volta has is that these Morgans are so tiny relative to the BMW Alpina, which tries to slide up the inside again to retake the place, only succeeds in slowing himself down and allowing the second of the Morgans to get a run on him out of the chicane, which he does, and makes the pass. Well done.
So now Breach has nipped by as well, so it's Morgan and Morgan now up the inside of the Barwell Aston Martin, and continuing the pursuit. Next target in the gun sights already lined up and waiting. Blue flags waving at the side of the signal. I think they know.
Yes, and the Ford GT is looking a little bit more confident now that the track is coming back. Christopher Mamero looks as though he's wanting to get his way past the Ascari, putting a nose down the inside. Can he get the job done? Not there, he can't. Another opportunity, you feel, though, will arise. Here's the battle over fourth place.
Christopher
Nygaard, third place now. It's third place,
Nicholas Armindo fourth. Christopher Harths in second place is not quite as comfortable championship-wise now as he was, because under pressure from everybody behind him, Nicholas Armindo has had to come forward, and the number 32 Audi is now showing fourth on the leaderboard and looking very aggressive behind Christopher Nygaard. He was the one, Nygaard, who made all the running on the wet and managed to push through and took Armindo with him. But now I think as the track dries, his advantage is not quite so obvious, is it?
No, and it's certainly favouring the Audi. I think Armindo is looking as though he's going to have his way and get past Christopher Nygaard at some point in the next couple of laps. Bontempelli managing to just about hold pace with these two in the background, but Morgan's again looking like the greatest threat to anybody's place. A little internecine squabble breaking up between them, maybe. No, they'll come in nose to tail through the first chicane at the back of the pits there. Thomas Ackery is still in 11th place, but the gap has come down now between himself and Christian Mamero in the Ford GT, and he's pretty much on terms, aiming to get up into the top 10, but he needs to be much further up to benefit from the points.
If Thomas Ackery does in fact manage to get past into 10th place, he'll be back where he started before he lobbed it off in turn 1 just over 20 minutes ago.
Yes, but he's lost a lot of his opportunity. 37 minutes almost remaining, which means that we're 23 minutes in now. That, I think, is where our pit stop window opens for those who may want to start to come in. It's between minutes 23 and 37, on board with Ackery. Nice work.
That was very decisive stuff, wasn't it?
Yep, knifing down the inside, not only of Ronnie Bramer, but Xaver Walter as well. Ronnie Bramer going round the outside of Xaver Walter in the Ascari.
So there was a little bit of something flicked up then, and I'm not sure what it was. I think it might just have been debris from something earlier on. But as they go over the line now, let's see where Thomas Ackery is in fact 8th now. So he's gained 2 places from his grid start of 10th. And he's gained them both on the last lap. This was fantastic from Ackery. Now, this is what he was hoping to do in turn 1, only it all went horribly wrong about here when he just tried to touch the brakes. And if it had worked in turn 1, he'd have been a hero. As it is, he's got a lot to do. And this is now the Pro Speed cars spinning and a touch with the Alpina.
Yeah, Yuri Lanek there coming into contact. Next up as a target is this 4GT. There is the Aston right behind. BMW Alpina not at all happy at having lost the place to the Ascari. Xaver Walter will want to try and get back on turns with Ronnie Bramer as quickly as he can. The BMWs have come along very nicely during this season, having started a little cautiously. They've really developed this package into a very competitive one over the season. Jens Klingmann's lead in this race being a fine example of that.
It's nice to see Alpina in this class of racing, isn't it?
As suspected, Nicolas Armando has at some point made his way past Christian Nygaard. He's now running in 3rd, so it's Audi's 2nd and 3rd behind Jens Klingmann.
And as you said, this is developing into quite a little battle, isn't it?
Morgan just nudging his way past the Belgian Barwell car and towing along with him the number 35 car of Michael Petit out of the French stable, the MP racing car. The Xaver Walter car, I think, there was pulling off into pit lane for the first of our compulsory pit stops. 70 seconds, as you said, the time that must elapse between pit in and pit out. Any less time spent and you will be penalised with a stop and go by the amount by which you were shorter. Through goes Michael Petit on the Julien Briche.
He was good in Ricard, wasn't he, Michael Petit? Looked quite impressive for quite a long time in the car, but now the pit stop window is open. The teams are all having a decision time, and you can see yourself there is a dry line out there which invites the use of slick tyres.
Yes.
And there doesn't appear to be a tyre lying about anywhere around that Ferrari, does there?
Not around that one, no, but you may find teams having to juggle the decision of whether it's better to leave the quicker driver out on wet tyres on a drying track, or whether to get maybe the slightly slower driver in but put him out on slicks.
Christopher Haas was very clear there. Here it is happening on the Alpine. Was very clear that they were going to go the aggressive route and change tyres at the pit stop. But when that pit stop takes place is a matter, as we say, for the teams to decide, because they start to look at the lap times, and as soon as they start to fall off, that's when you bring the car in, really.
Yes, and it'll be those teams at the front watching too the times of maybe Xaver Walter's car taken up by Claudia Hürten will be the first to demonstrate how much quicker they're going to go on slicks, and that may well bring the decision forward for teams who need to make that change. We've got a nice little battle brewing here. The 101 Gaulle car heads Christopher Mamero at the moment, with Thomas Ackery next up, and they've moved up to 5th, 6th and 7th as the Bontempelli car and Xaver Walter's BMW Alpina both stopped last time round. All the places on track become somewhat mangled now as we get into the pit stop routine, and will only shake out properly once everybody has been in, done their driver change and come back out. Christian Mamero looking nice and confident in that 4GT again, and looking to take the place back from the Morgan that he had earlier lost.
I think he's a lot happier now that he's got some dry track to work on,
yes.
But he's got to stick to the line. As soon as, if he wants to pass, he's going to have to go off the dry line and onto the wet. At the moment, it's not that wet and it shouldn't hurt hurt him that much. He's got the tyres for it, what's left of them, and he's still got a few minutes left as well in the pit window.
And I think he's got that job done down the inside into the first chicane. Yes, he has, neatly done there.
And behind that, look, Thomas Ackery 7th at the moment. He's been a bit helped by pit stops, as you say, mangling the leaderboard somewhat. But there's no doubt that Thomas Ackery is closing in, although his lap times now are 1:47, his last lap, but he's been stuck behind traffic. As you can see, he's got a Lamborghini that he's just found his way past, and he has got another 5 or 6 minutes at the wheel before he hands over to his teammate, and it might well get a little bit slower then, even though it goes on to slicks, as the number 1 car has just gone on to slicks for Thomas Butch now.
Yep.
Where is that at the moment? Somewhere around about,
16th.
yes, well, he came from 22nd to win last time, so Thomas Butch will be worth watching, won't he?
He'd just gone a lap down, Volter not really enjoying the early running this time, but he's had a good season too, Walter. It's his first full season in the GT3. He's just straying onto the wet stuff there and losing some of that grip, which is important. This is this last Jackie X chicane into the start-finish race, an important one to get right. We're back with Jens Klingmann at the head of the field, yet to stop and setting the race's best lap last time round, a 1:46.2. which compares with a 1:32 in qualifying in full dry conditions. So we can expect to see something like 15 seconds of improvement, perhaps, between wet and dry settings on these cars.
That incident between 12 and 34 under investigation. The stewards do like to operate a firm policy with regard to driving standards, and aren't shy about penalising people if they think they've stepped out of line.
And it has worked, hasn't it?
Yes.
And if we cast our minds back to when this formula first began, it really was a bit of a crash fest on the move, wasn't it? And it certainly isn't that anymore. There's still some fairly aggressive driving from time to time, and very firm overtaking manoeuvres put upon one another.
Pit stop time, I think, is almost upon us for all of our leaders, and I'm sure that Christopher Haas would have come in a little bit faster had he not been stuck behind one of his our Belgian compatriots in a different race. And he's then crossed the in-line, and at that point has to hit the 60 kilometres an hour speed limit, and the 70 seconds timing begins as well. Plenty of time to change tyres and change drivers. It's generous pit stop allocation. The temptation is to go too soon, and as Graham was saying, if you go too soon you get penalised. You come back for a stop, go for the difference under 70 seconds. So stopwatch is very important. Pass out, Mies in. Christopher Mies was the man who had the big spin at Paul Ricard, and
yes.
He was the only one who was vaguely troubled. Massive as that accident was, the safety standards in this class are so good that he was the only one who was slightly troubled by it, taken to the medical centre and onto hospital as a precaution, and he was back at the circuit Saturday afternoon. On go the lovely shiny slick tyres. Who's gone out on slicks that we can look at and see a lap time for? Where is Claudia Hurtgen on our leaderboard? There she is. What are her lap times? 43, is that, Graham?
1:43.3 last time.
So she's 3
best
seconds.
time for the car.
3 seconds a lap quicker than anybody at the top of the leaderboard on wet tyres.
And improving again on the current lap. She just set her fastest first sector, a 32.9. as opposed to a 34.6, the best time for Klingmann on the wet tyres in the head of the field. We're on board with the number 4 Hex. This isn't Ackery's car, this is Fred Makovici, having taken over from Manuel Rodriguez, and we should see the car go a little bit faster as a consequence.
Fred Makovici and Thomas Ackery are the two Hex's stars, you have to say, and Fred Makovici can be very aggressive and very firm. So if you were the driver, say, of a Ford GT, you'd want to be very careful, but he's pit lane bound, so that's all there.
Takes care of that. We were looking at 12 and 34 cars incident, weren't we? 34 has just been issued with a drive-through penalty. Here is Jens Klingmann bringing the BMW Alpina B6 GT3 car number 25 into the pits from the lead.
Where are the tyres?
Nicholas Armindo's gone with it. should have had those laid out ready, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Well, they've got 70 seconds. They're going to use all of them, aren't they?
They are at that rate, yes.
Fooling around like this. The thing is that tyre changes are not normally a feature of GT3 racing. And it looks to me like that's something they haven't practiced.
They hadn't really thought about that, had they? Best lap of the race has now gone to Claudia Hürtgen. We were keeping an eye on her. She's rocketed up to 14th place and set a 1:38.8. So
definitely
you've got to be on slicks.
Here is Ackery handing over the number 3 to Julian Rodriguez. It's going to be quicker than it was because of the conditions, but Julian Rodriguez won't make it go as quick as Thomas Ackery would have done had he been driving it this time around.
Came in from 5th place, and again we'll just have to wait for the final pit stops to unwind. The majority have now been in. Philippe Rombaud an exception in the JMB Ferrari, as is Michael Petit in one of the MP Racing BMW Alpinas.
Any points for Ackery and for Armindo and Campanico will keep their championship alive. What's all this?
This is fun, that's what this is. This is the 18 Mullner Porsche in there. You've got the 35 BMW, 3 wide through that corner, simply won't go. Something had to give, and it was the BMW that had to give way. The Morgan mashing his way through the middle of all that lot.
Well, that was very intense for a moment. There's a man on the pit wall there waving a blue flag. I'd drop that and run away.
It's looking a little wary. It's the Black Sunstrip, the 100 car, who's actually a lap down in the midst of all that.
And it's still saying Breach on the leaderboard, but of course he's been into the pits, and so it won't be Julien Breach. Here it is again.
No,
look,
it will be Johan
4
Boris
wide.
Schein.
And just there in the background, you see the blue flag being waved from the edge of the pit wall. There it is, and I would be on my toes. They didn't tell me about this in the briefing this morning.
The Morgan's battle is with the Porsche there. We saw Marcus Pautala, the number 18 Mullner car. That was the battle for position that was going on in the midst of all that. Here, meanwhile, is the race leader, as was.
Martin Matschke has taken over from Jens Klintman. It's a man we've seen in the championship before. We know how quick he is. And you could see there, when it came into shot, the very first moment it appeared, how hard he was braking and how much that car was jumping on its tyres and challenging their grip. And that is an indication, if you didn't believe the times that Claudia Hürtgen was setting, that this circuit is now dry on its dry line, and this is still going on.
Great stuff. This battle between the Morgan and the Porsche is one that we could just watch and watch, but there's so much else going on, including another fastest race lap, this time by Stefano Gattuso, having taken over from Lorenzo Bontempelli in the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari. He's got straight down to business and into the 135s.
It still says Julien Breach, but that Morgan has been in for a pit stop, and that leads me to suspect that not only has it got slick tyres on board, but it's also got Johan Boris Schein on board, which would explain all that smoking on under brakes going into all the corners.
Yeah, yes, because he doesn't hang around, does he? Who else is on the move? Christopher Haas setting his car's fastest time last time through. That's 2 though has had a change, so that should be now Christopher Mies.
Yes, we saw that happen, so we do know it's Christopher Mies. And we know that this is Fred Macavici in number 4, having taken over from Manuel Rodriguez earlier on. And we've got 23 minutes, and all our pit stops have been taken, so there is just racing to the flag with Christopher's Haas and Mies. That's the 33 of Bonifacio. We haven't seen a lot of that car, but it was at 4th on the leaderboard when that happened, and that's at the bottom by the canal, isn't it? The Sterenwacht, or whatever it is, the turn that leads into canal, and that's not a normal place for us to see people losing it on their own. So I wonder if there was anything going on there. Who was round him? Gattuso and Flo Gruber had taken over 28. He was just a second behind, so maybe there was a little bit of confrontation.
Yeah, could be. Gattuso is the man on the move. Oh, he's just lobbed it off again.
So perhaps there wasn't anybody else involved in on the evidence we've just seen.
Yes, it would appear that Bonifacio is able to do that all by himself. Stefano Gattuso has set another fastest lap, now down into the 33s and up into third place.
There's bits of, I was going to say there's debris on the track, and that's why. That's the number 12 of
that's Michael Forston.
Michael Forston, yes, and that is the left rear quarter's got damage on it, and that's what's lying on the track. Is bits of rubber from that, and I don't know whether it had a puncture and then did that, or did that and caused a puncture. But it looks to me as though that had been flat for a while. That tyre,
yes, it does look so. It's been running on flat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Claudia Hurtgen replies to Gattuso's time by setting the fastest of all in sector 1 this time through. Not able to improve her second sector time though, so traffic still playing its part.
6th place though for Claudia Hurtgen, so the Alpine is looking strong as we come towards the final 20 odd minutes of this race, with Christopher Haas on and Christopher Mies in the 26 on for 10 points at the moment, while Ackery and Rodriguez are just going to pick up a couple, but that will be enough to keep it alive as far as they're concerned.
Until this afternoon.
Yes, it means we are going to the final race of the year based on what we're looking at here. Where's the other Audi? Oh, in 4th place. That'll keep it alive for them as well, won't it?
Yep, Campanico and Armindo in as you say, 4th place, and having had to fight back from the penalty that they were given on the grid today, 5 places. They won't have that penalty again in the second race. Again, Claudia Hurtgen whistling through the first sector of her next lap as well. Didn't improve her position, but did improve her lap time last time through, 34.5. Still the Stefano Gattuso Ferrari time of 33.9, the best of the race.
Christopher Mies just flashing lights at the Ascari in front of him. And what's all this talk about watches on the pit wall?
Yeah.
We haven't seen anybody yet penalised for too short a pit stop, and I presume that's mostly because of the tyre changes meant that they were all longer than 70 seconds.
Here we go, Audi versus Audi, but not for race position. This is an FIA GT Audi passing a Belgian GT Audi. Fred Makovici sets up the purple segment in the part 2 of the lap this time through. Number 4 Aston Martin sort of making the way clear, if you like, for the number 3 car of Rodriguez behind. There is another pass.
It's Gruber going past the Belgian one.
Yep.
He's currently in 5th place. Campanico's the man. He's chasing about a second up the road. We've just seen him go past. In front of him, it's Gattuso, Machka and Haas. It's looking very Audi-fied at the top end of our leaderboard again at the end of the year. And these R8s have just got progressively, I mean, they arrived looking pretty much the real thing, and they just got more and more efficient as the season's gone on. And that's it, really. They've just got more and more efficient.
Yes, they have. And Campanico, Sergio Campanico in the 32 car is looking to try and wrest back the last podium position from Stefano Gattuso if he can. He's quicker than him last time round, but only by a tenth, and he's got a second to make up. We've got 19 minutes still remaining in this, so I don't think the podium place is done and dusted just yet. Behind him, Flo Gruber in the 28 Fisher Ford is also running quite close by, and another second adrift. Christopher Mies knocks off another lap to put 22 into the books. Claudia Hurtgen we're looking at there.
On board with Fred Makovici, and he's currently in 7th spot, and his teammate is right behind him. They are both in with a shout at the championship as well, and so from where they are, they're in with a shout. It was 15 drivers when we arrived here, 14 when we started the race had a mathematical chance at the title. And it looks to me as if it's going to be pretty much the same number in with a shout when we get to the start of the final race later on this afternoon. The last thing that happens here at Zolder this afternoon will be the final round of the GT3 Championship, and it is shaping up to be a cracker because it's going to decide the title, Graham.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Thomas Much just pipped Makovici's time with a 1:33.3 to go fastest of all. There he is passing the Barwell Aston Martin, and in pursuit now of this one. This is Thomas Ackery's championship leading car. The scant half point is going to be important at some point this weekend. but Rodriguez has got to try and keep that position ahead of what is now a charging Thomas Much in the number 1-4 GT.
He's 9th now. He was 16th when he took the car over and left pit lane. And we said then, watch Thomas Much go.
And go he is.
He is, isn't he?
This is...
just gone purple. Thomas Much, fastest of all on his last lap. And there's a spinner at turn one. That's the Ascari. Yes. Who took over from Ronnie Brayman? Norman Knopp.
Norman Knopp, German driver.
Knopped that, hadn't he?
Knopped it on the head. Here is the very rapidly closing Thomas Much, already right up onto the back of the number 3.
It is indeed.
Rodriguez
Just got the front end of that 4GT just
Gone.
got scorched by the flames out of the exhaust pipe of Rodriguez Aston Martin. But Thomas Much makes up another place. It's fun to watch, and Thomas Much, look at it, already pulling away as Rodriguez very unsettled about that. He knows how important this is, and he didn't want that pass to happen. And he's just getting a little bit nervy behind the wheel. That's not good. He needs to calm down, because whatever points he brings home are going to be vital.
But he's lost another place now to Johan Boris Shire in the Morgan, who's already gone past as well. We saw Rodriguez fishing for the gear lever during that last corner, and while he was doing so, the Morgan slipped by on the inside as well. So he's lost another place, I'm afraid. There goes Thomas Much, and any second now the Morgan was going to follow.
And there is the Morgan just dropping out of the bottom of the picture. So Rodriguez has lost a couple of places. It still doesn't kill their championship stone dead. As long as he doesn't do anything silly now, he really needs to keep this very calm and collected.
Yeah, he'd ideally like to stay in the points, but there are too many cars ahead of him who are circulating faster, and his last lap time of 1:39 compares not at all favourably with anyone around him, including those behind him, Marcus Paltala, and is going to be next to try and make up another place at the expense of Rodriguez, who has been suffering somewhat in the Aston Martin in this section.
Christopher Haas, for example, you're looking at now in the R8, number 26. His last lap was a 34.3. His best lap has been a 33.6. And as Graham said, that's completely different to what we're seeing from the number 3. And I'm afraid that Rodriguez has really got to get a grip on himself, Julian Rodriguez. He really needs to give himself a very stern talking to during this lap and settle down.
Christopher Mees running comfortably at the head of the field, turning 133s and 134s, not under any pressure from behind. Martin Matzke is next up in the number 25 Alpina, and that's taken that over from Jens Klingman, who brought the car in from the lead. Matzke is now some 21 seconds adrift. Stefano Gattuso in third has responded to the attack from behind of Cesar Campanico and extended the gap back up to 2 seconds again with a 1:33.7. But Thomas Much has broken the 1:33 barrier and down to 1:32.8.
And he is currently in 8th place as well, but he's got quite a way to go before he gets on the tail of Fred Macavici in the number 4 Aston Martin. He's a different proposition altogether to Julian Rodriguez, isn't he? Fred Macavici will not be a pushover.
No, those two have been trading fastest laps over the last couple of laps, and joined in now by Maxime Martin in the 101. Morgan also running in the 132s last time through. The purple sectors lighting up car by car as they flash through the timing beams. But as we say, Stefano Gattuso is now getting closer to Martin Matzke, rather than having to worry so much about Cesar Campanico behind him, freeing him up to make an attack for the second step on the podium.
I'll tell you what, Graham, this is the first time we've really seen a Ferrari in the hunt all year, isn't it? Absolutely
it is. It's been a very sorry season for Ferrari, one way and another, both in terms of damage and in terms of performance. Danny Van Dongen is the other Ferrari who's showing on page 1, and he's sharing the 56 car this weekend with Phil Quaife for CRS, but they are down in 16th place.
Christopher Haas has a lead of 22 seconds and is unlikely to see that very much threatened in the course of the next 12 minutes. And this is Julian Rodriguez. He is at the moment in 10th place. He'll get a point, which means that they'll be 9.5 behind Christopher Haas. You're shaking your head. Have I got the sums wrong?
Well, for 10th place, he won't get anything, as then he's scored down to 8th. So
right, it's not 10 points.
He's currently half a point ahead. He will be 9.5 behind because he'll lose 10 points to Christopher's Haas and Mees. Maxime Martin sets the fastest time in 9th in the Morgan.
This is the other Aston Martin. That's number 4 of Makavici, and I think that's the
Belgian Audi, behind which he can't afford to get stuck because both Thomas Much and Maxime Martin behind him are circulating in the 32s on a regular basis now. Makavici's last lap of 35, and he needs to clear this Audi and get back on it in a hurry.
He is also in danger of being caught, and guess who by?
Thomas Much.
His last lap was a 35, Thomas Much a 33, the gap between them 4 seconds, so Thomas Much definitely quicker, and this is definitely holding him up, as you say.
Yeah, 11 minutes still remain, so time enough for changes still to come. Gattuso has closed the gap a further second almost on Martin Matzke for 2nd place. So that's a battle that we need to keep an eye on as well. But still, frustration now for Fred Makavici, unable to make his way past the Audi. That in turn is coming up against another slower car. Maybe this will allow an opportunity for Makavici to dive past a pair of them. No, the slower car pulls off to the left, making way for the battling pair to go past. But they're separated by a lap, so this is not a real battle for track position. Now the Audi, however, has got the dry track to work with. It's quite capable of staying ahead. Another Audi this time is in a battle with the car behind it, Flo Gruber and Cesar Campanico. 4th place for Campanico in the yellow trimmed Audi, pulling out to pass the slower Belgian GT car there, and to be followed by Gruber as well.
I'll tell you what, everybody down to Rodriguez, who is in 10th place at the moment. In front of him are all the people who could win this championship, and that includes Maxime Martin and Gaël Soulier in the Morgan, Thomas Much, Fred Makavici. Not sure about Claudia Hirsch, but certainly Flo Gruber can, Campanico can, Martin Matzke can. There's 8 people in the top 10 who could win the championship at the final round if they finish in this order still.
And Stefano Gattuso is the spoiler in all that, isn't he, in the Ferrari, and looking to take points away from the BMW, closing the gap down between 2nd and 3rd place as Gruber flies down. I wonder if that was a mistake on the part of Campanico, because he seemed to go past way too easily.
Either Campanico missed the gear shift there, or Flo Gruber hit the NOS button, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, got it absolutely right. Here's a replay, just maybe drifting a little bit wide there and getting offline, opening the door for the dry line to be taken by Flo Gruber. Needed no second invitation, and away on his toes. Gattuso had closed the gap to 2.2 seconds between himself and Martin Matzke for 2nd place last time round.
Haas, Matzke, Gattuso, Campanico, Gruber, they've swapped, and that will be reflected in a moment as they go past the start-finish line. What's that flag waving? That's one of the BMWs.
BMW.
And
that's Martin Matzke's car, which did a 35 last time round. It's now ground to a halt altogether. That does give now 2nd place to Stefano Gattuso. Gruber will inherit 3rd, Campanico to 4th, and Claudia Hirtgen will move up to 5th. That still, however, doesn't put Julian Rodriguez in the points. He's going to go to 9th rather than 10th, but still outside the point scoring.
But still in with a shout for the championship because of that half a point. Half points awarded in race 1 at Paul Ricard. That half point, and of course a very useful decision from the FIA during the course of this week.
Here's Christopher Mees, comfortably leading and extending that lead to 23 seconds now, although last time round with traffic intervening, Gattuso took a slightly faster lap time than Christopher Mees. That's a problem.
That is the other CRS car, isn't it?
Yeah, Danny Van Dongen. They were just saying how the CRS have just the 1 car remaining, 55, having been tipped into a spin. Oh dear, that's Claudia Hirtgen. Not a good lap then for the Alpina squad. losing one car to a mechanical and the other to a spin.
And as you can see, the old-fashioned gravel trap has got Claudia Hirchen caught there. If this was a modern circuit with concrete runoff, she'd have pirouetted and gone on her way, a couple of places down. But as it is, she's well and truly stuck, and here's why: all by herself, no one to blame.
Yeah,
we did say that this middle chicane, you were nearly always at home to Mr. Cockup, didn't we?
And just straying off the dry line and out onto the edge of the circuit where there is damp track to beckon you. Danny Van Dongen has made it back into the pits, and they'll get it up on the air jacks and hopefully change that tyre fairly quickly, get him back on his way. But inevitably he's going to tumble down the order and onto the second page of timing and scoring.
In the meanwhile, Ackery and Rodriguez go up into the points through no doing of their own, and the double disaster for the Alpina squad that's put them up into a point scoring position and tightens it up even more for our race again later on this afternoon. Yes,
1 point there now for Rodriguez.
Thomas Much in 6th place. They can win the championship as well, but they do need an awful lot of other stuff to happen to other people, so it's a long shot.
Yeah, Makovici and Much lapping within hundredths of a second of each other over the last couple of laps, so difficult to see where Much is going to be able to make up the 2 seconds he needs to in the remaining 6 minutes in order to improve his point score over Makovici, but stranger things have happened.
Well, bear in mind that when he got past and into clear air behind Makovici, it was 4 seconds. It is now 2, and I think it's slightly less now looking at that.
Yeah.
He's certainly on the hunt, isn't he, Thomas Much? And they're pretty much the similar times in the 2 sectors of the lap so far.
There is the 101 Morgan running in 7th place, Maxime Martin having taken over the wheel. This is the number 1 Ford GT. Thomas Much, as we say, off in pursuit of Makovici, but last lap times were very much in Makovici's favour by over a second. And Cesar Campanico just about on terms with Flo Gruber in terms of lap times, but a second and a half to find if he's going to take the last step on the podium. The top step looks to be well and truly now in the hands of Christopher Mies at the back of this trio. There he is.
And he's going to take the 10-point score away from this. There's a few people now behind him who are going to get a couple of points out of this, but not enough to keep them in the hunt for the final round. But there are a few people even further back who will get enough to keep them in the hunt. So it won't be 14 who are vying for the title this afternoon, but it's going to be half a dozen.
Having made his way up into the points with the misfortune of others, Julian Rodriguez has just been pitched out of the points again by the number 100.
That's Johan Boris Shire.
Johan Boris Shire, and now claiming the final point, just behind his teammate 101 Maxime Martin.
And although their name was on the card as being championship possibles this morning, I don't think they will have a chance at it this afternoon. They haven't done enough, and not enough bad things have happened to the men at the front. Haas and Mies are going to look very strong at the end of this, and so too Armindo and Campanico with their 4th place. Makovici's doing himself quite nicely as well in 5th, but we're at the moment Fred Makovici on 30 points isn't going to be close enough to be a contender.
No, and your leader Christopher Mies just going to try and put a lap on the number 35 BMW. This is one of the French-entered MP racing cars. Armand Fumal is the man at the wheel, and he's going to see race leader looming large in his mirrors. At least you hope he is, and we'll make room for him. He'll get a blue flag to assist him in his recognition of what's going on behind. Here is the 2nd place car, Stefano Gattuso, and Flo Gruber has now dropped away to 5.8 seconds behind, so looks as though that podium place is set. However, Cesar Campanico has closed to less than a second behind Flo Gruber in 3rd place, and final step of the podium certainly under threat now.
And there was something flapping on one of those Belgian GTs, so I don't know what it was, but it doesn't seem to have been affected anybody in terms of bits of debris or whatever. We've got final battles going on in this last 2.5 minutes. But oh dear, that's been in the wars all through this race, hasn't it?
It's been in picture quite a lot, hasn't it? Not always for the right reasons. And that is Yuri Navratil in the
Well, and
second
truly
Team
stuck, Graham.
Rosberg car. Paolo Bonifacio had the odd moment, didn't he? And this time Yuri Navratil has done his bit to make sure they get some TV time, but not for the right reason. Says Campanico, this is that battle I was talking about for the final podium step, and Campanico is the man doing the chasing. He's 9/10ths of a second away. The last time through when they crossed the line, Gruber had marginally the better lap time, and this one is going to run down for the last couple of laps with 2 minutes to go.
Yes, we have got 2 minutes to go, and when the clock goes to 0, the leader will be shown the checkered flag. The yellows are waving here because of that 33 that's stuck in the gravel and bounced itself through this chicane and somehow flicked it into the gravel trap on the other side of the road there. I'm not quite sure how he managed that one, but still, Campanico, I don't think he's going to catch Flo Gruber in the next 2 minutes, and Flo Gruber certainly doesn't want that to happen. I think he may well be taking it a little bit easy because he thinks it's done and dusted. And will they catch up with traffic? I don't think so. 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining.
That will be Gruber's main worry, won't it? Because this is a group they're coming up upon, and we've seen some fairly robust driving from the 32 car, though it must be said mainly when Nicolas Armindo is behind the wheel. Here's the leader still trying to make his way past to put that lap on the Armand Fumal, but not really important. We're on our last lap.
There you see, look, that behind there is one of the Belgian Lamborghinis with large bits of bodywork flapping in the breeze, but it doesn't look as if it's going to come apart at any moment. And Christopher Mies hasn't given up, has he? Even though he's on the last lap, he is still trying to get past, and he needn't really, because he's got 18 seconds on Stefano Gattuso in the Ferrari. And when did we last say there's a Ferrari on the podium in GT3? It's an awful long time.
It's out of my memory, I'm afraid.
Henri Moser and Gilles Vanelay won the title in a Ferrari, and it's changed a lot since then, hasn't it?
The team manager of Armand Fumal's number 35 car has been summoned to the headmaster. They must have been having the blue flags shown at him for at least the last lap and a half, and has been studiously ignoring them, so he will get a slap on the wrist at best.
Yes, it's not on to resist the leader when you're being lapped, especially because there's somebody trying to catch him up, or even though the gap is 18 seconds. Gruber is going to be third, and Campanico is going to be fourth, I'm pretty sure. Then it'll be Makovici in fifth. That's not enough for his title. Much sixth, that won't be enough for his title. Maxime Martin seventh, not enough for his title. And Jean-Boris Shire eighth, not enough for his title. Rodriguez ninth, no points, but enough for his title. There is the checkered flag that Christopher Mies and Christopher Haas have driven for in this race from pole position. That's exactly what they needed, because their grid slot for the next race isn't good enough, is it, really?
No, it's not brilliant, but it's set them up with a lead of some, I think, 7.5 points last time we did some mental arithmetic. That's how close they were to getting that third step on the podium, but as you predicted, Flo Gruber able to hold on to it by just 0.3 of a second at the flag from Cesar Campanico's Audi. So first and fourth for the R8s this time through.
We haven't seen Fischer on a GT3 podium since Oschersleben, and I think Flo Gruber actually won that second race.
Yes, he did. That's their first and only win of the season for the Fischer GT squad. But Christopher Mies and Christopher Haas taking the win in race one. We've got one more round to go, and as yet, still nothing decided. Good crowd turning out to watch all this today as well.
Especially with the view
and
conditions,
what a treat they are having.
It's not a nice day, is it, looking out of the window? We were promised sunshine by the Belgian weather forecasters, and quite frankly, we haven't had that, have we?
Well, not yet. It did try to break through earlier on, but the clouds conspired. There's Jean-Denis Delatraz out of a race this weekend at the expense of the other pairing in the Phoenix team. So we'll try and catch up with the points and see how that sets us up for this afternoon's race. But I still think we're going to have three crews in the hunt for the title. Let's have a look and see what the addition says. Haas and Mies 49.5, Armindo and Campanico 42, Ackery and Rodriguez 40. So they're all in with a shout. Everybody else isn't, because next up is Fred Makovici
and Manuel Rodriguez on 34, and that's not enough with 10 points at stake. So it is 3 crews battling for the title this afternoon, and the grid positions tell us.
In race 2, Mies and Haas line up next to Campanico and Armindo on row 4.
Door handles
Oh,
at
joy.
5 o'clock.
Flo Gruber, having come third in this race, starts from third in race 2, so there's still a lot to play for.
And the Aston Martin of Ackery and Julian Rodriguez starts race 2 in 8th or 9th, is it?
No, it's on row 8 actually. It's down in 16th place.
Oh, this was their bad one, wasn't it? Yes, the
15th.
second one.
Yeah, 15th. No, sorry, 16th on the outside of row 8. So yeah, tough.
See, look, Christopher Mies thinks they've done enough already. He's not quite celebrating the championship, but he thinks that he's done enough, even though they're not right up front.
He'll be very happy with that race result, though, because mixed conditions. We'll try and grab a word with Christopher if we can.
I'm sure we can find, and you don't need to ask him how he's feeling at the moment, do we? You can tell by the smile.
Congratulations, Christopher. How was that race for you?
It was really tough for us, really strong. I drove out with a slick tire. It was really slippery on the track, but now we're on first position. I think we're on first position in the championship. And later it's the last race this year, so we're really happy. The guys did a good job, so it's pretty good.
Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you.
Pretty good all round then.
Yeah, I think pretty good is pretty good.
Yeah, good result, good
Yeah.
job, good position.
In the background, Stefano Gattuso getting out of the Ferrari, and as you said, when was it last we saw a Ferrari on the podium? Long time ago. I suspect we'll have to do some research on that one.
But him and Italian champion Bontempelli have got every reason to be pleased with that, haven't they?
Oh yeah, yes, that's been a good addition to the Ferrari squad this weekend.
I'm not sure that we've had a Ferrari on the podium this year at all.
No, I don't think we have. I can't find a point score better than 2, which would be for 7th place. So good change of fortune, just a little late in the season perhaps for Ferrari.
Well, we've seen Bontempelli before, and he got a 6-point score at the middle of the season, yes. But good result for him. That's the race in a minute, as we've just seen it. It was much more exciting than that, I thought.
It was, yes. Time to get your breath back now.
Plenty going on, and at the moment it is advantage Haas and Mies in the championship. Here are those points that we were talking about just now, and as you can see, Haas and Mies have a 7.5 point lead over Armindo and Campanico, and start side by side with them in the final race of the year.
Happy days for Audi, though. They'll be delighted in their inaugural season with the R8 running in the GT3 class.
Up onto the podium. That's our first Ferrari podium this year, we think. And I can't even remember one from last year, but there must have been one. But 2 very happy Audi drivers in the middle of that group. hats on, champagne to the fore, let's present some trophies. That was a good race from both of those guys. They both did exactly the right job, and it just goes to show the value of a strong pairing, doesn't it?
Yes, it is a pairing that stands up well to scrutiny. They've been able to match one another's time pretty well throughout the season, these two. And after that mighty smiting of the barrier last time out, good to see them almost literally bouncing back.
So it's Audi, Ferrari and Ford on the podium. Let's not forget, we haven't seen a Ford GT on the podium since Ricard when Thomas Much and Alter won that race. But the Fischer pairing back after first getting up onto the top step in Germany. Christopher Nygaard and Flo Gruber there. And they'll be pleased with that. Everybody likes to end the season on a high, don't they?
Yes, they've got one more opportunity. The potential 15 pared down to 14, now pared down to only 6 drivers who can take the championship, with a point spread down to 9.5 to the current third place pairing, which is the number 3 Akri and Rodriguez pairing. They're still in with a mathematical chance, but it's looking harder now for them to oust both of these Audi crews, who may well settle the championship between them this afternoon.
Well, we have other podiums to get through as well, of course, because we have championships for all the Porsches, all the Ferraris, all the Ford GTs, etc., etc. We've got a message on our screen that says Team Manager 35 report to Race Direct, which we saw before, which we think pertains to a little bit of contact. But it's not going to amend anything on here, because where is 35 on our leaderboard? Quite a long way down, isn't it?
Yes, he was down in 14th place on Marfumal. Should know better than to have held up and held up and held up Christopher Mies. Didn't need to do that. Representatives from each of the other marks winning their classes now appearing on the podium.
Top Morgan boys, Maxime Martin, and I think it was Makavici, top Aston Martin.
Fred Makavici up there in 5th place. Yep, and Marcus Paltala I saw there in the top Porsche in 10th place overall. Amar Fumal actually will be the best BMW, because the 2 Alpina cars both came to a sticky end.
Did Claudia Hirschen get going again, or did she spend the rest of the race
she was
in the
in
gravel track?
34th place, and yes, was running again at the end, but she lost 6 laps with that trip into the gravel.
So there it is, result as you've seen. Haas and Mies take a well-deserved win, and that means that they start the second race of the day, the final race of the year, with a very convincing lead in the championship. Morally, they've got a big head start over everybody else, because they've had a big boost to their confidence as a result of that win. And they've got the points as well, they've got the position on the grid as well. So it really does look like it's going to be an Audi versus Audi affair, and it's the 4th place in this race, Armindo and Campanico, who are going to be giving them the most grief from a championship point of view. The
difficulty that the Campanico and Armindo are going to have is that they have got to really get themselves a long way ahead of Haas and Mies if they're going to redress the balance in terms of the points. And both of them starting on row 4 means that they're only in at that point for the lower point scores. They need the big point scores to Campanico and Armindo to be able to get into a position to fight for the championship this afternoon.
Haas and Mies have only got to finish about 5th, haven't they, in this?
5th or 6th I think will actually do the job for them, because it'll score them 3 points, leaving them 10.5 points clear of whatever else anybody else does. So
it's been a changing season, hasn't it? And it's always happened like this in GT3, that you get to the end of the year, and what you find is the people who are battling for the title aren't the people who started off looking strongest at the beginning of the year. There was a dominant appearance from the Ford GTs, which faded, and we had a Corvette winner. The Morgans started this year. I was thinking last year,
hot, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, at Silverstone, nobody could get anywhere near them, could they? And yet they've sort of faded mid-season and come back into it. But the Audis have just gradually ramped up their performance through the year. And now we're looking at this situation, and as you can see, the difference is 7.5 points. So unless there's someone 7.5 points in front of them on the grid, and that means really winning, doesn't it? As far as Campanico and Armindo is concerned, if they're not winning, they're not going to get the title.
No.
And Ackery and Rodriguez really need a rainstorm in the middle of the race, don't they?
Yes, they need to, again, they've got to win. Ackery and Rodriguez have got to win and have no points scored by Haas and Mies in order for that to happen for them.
Yes, and from 16th on the grid, that is a very, very tall order.
Fred Makovici not able to make up enough places to improve his point score sufficiently to be in contention this afternoon, but nonetheless, top Aston Martin and a good 5th place this afternoon. It's been a fair season for Makovici. The Rodriguez brothers ran together in previous seasons, but they split them into the 2 Hexis cars this year.
You can't help wondering, as I was doing but didn't say, but now it's come up, I will, that Hexis might just be thinking it would have been a much better idea to put Ackery and Makovici together. And I think if you added their performances together, you'd have a different championship picture.
Yes, I think you would. You might also, now with the advent of ballast and so on in GT3, you might have had problems with more weight going onto the car as well. It's a 6 and 2 3s thing, isn't it? And clearly there was a good case to be made by the Rodriguez brothers for them to be put into into each car, and I'm sure the pair of them have actually benefited from being alongside a very rapid driver in their cars.
Well, Paul Ricard and then Zolder have brought us some drama in both races, and they have focused the championship. And as you can see there, Mies and Haas making their way off to the press conference, accompanied by Nygaard, Flo Gruber, and our Ferrari duo of Gattuso and Bontempelli. And they'll be troubling their PR department for the first time this year, really, won't they?
And so good to see. I mean, Ferrari have been a mainstay in GT racing in all sorts of levels for many a year, and it's been a shame to see them struggling so much this year.
Speaking of struggling,
this was the moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this is the critical moment, and Ackery really had an attack of red mist on the run down towards the first corner, and I think that was the moment when he'd flown it. Their plan obviously was for him to get as far forward as he could do while all this happened to other people, and unfortunately it didn't work. He didn't get it right. He ended up pretty much there, managed to drive out and finish the race, but that wasn't really any good, was it?
We're just coming to the end of this transmission. Don't miss the next one this afternoon.